How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Who wants to go first?
I'll ask, do you plan on ramping up or does the administration plan on ramping up deportations to El Salvador? And how many people do you want El Salvador to take from the United States?
Well, as an example, there are thousands of either trained Nicaragua members left in this country or their affiliates and associates. So obviously some portion of those will be going to El Salvador as part of our effort to eradicate this foreign terrorist organization from the United States. But there's no upper limit to the agreement. We're going to continue to send foreign terrorist aliens to El Salvador as well as to many other countries.
I
think you were first, I think.
Is the president asking President Bukele today to send Mr. Abrego Garcia back to the U.S.?
Well, again, to be very clear about this, the Supreme Court ruled that the district court cannot, obviously, compel us to conduct diplomacy or foreign policy with another nation. And so they overturned the district court order, and they said very clearly that the district court, it was actually a unanimous ruling, overreached in that ruling. I'm not going to reveal any head of state conversations or conversations at the State Department or the lower level, but the important point that we all agree on is that he's an El Salvadorian. That is his country of nativity and citizenship. He is an illegal alien in the United States. He has no lawful right to be here. He was issued a final order of removal from this country. And so it's up to El Salvador and to the government and the people of El Salvador what the fate of their own citizens is. We can't extradite citizens of foreign countries to our country over the objection of those countries. Obviously, to do that would be a monstrous violation of international law. We can't go into other countries and kidnap their citizens and then take them back into our country. That's up to El Salvador and their own.
To send him back, right?
But it's their own citizen, right? So remember, this whole entire conversation has been wrong from the beginning because nobody was mistakenly deported anywhere. That's like the big fact that most of you have gotten wrong. No one was mistakenly sent anywhere. The only mistake that was made is a lawyer put an incorrect line in a legal filing and they've since been relieved of duty. He is El Salvadorian. He is an illegal alien. He was deported to El Salvador. I would welcome anyone here to tell me what country they think we should be sending El Salvadorian illegal aliens to.
Didn't the judge order that he not be deported to El Salvador 5 years ago?
So what you're referring to is an immigration judge. So that's Article 2, not Article 3. So there was no Article 3 restraint on his removal. A withholding order or a cancellation of removal order, first of all, as I'm sure you know, does not eliminate the deportation order, right? We all agree on that. So his status was he's an illegal alien who's been ordered deported, which means he can be indefinitely detained and removed to any other country in the world, right? He can be sent to literally any country on the face of the earth. But the preference, general matter, is to deport someone to their home country, right? In this case, El Salvador. Because he is a member of a foreign terrorist organization, withholding orders don't apply to FTOs for obvious reasons. So if you had an illegal alien, say from Syria, who's a member of ISIS, they can't apply for withholding of removal. So that principle applies here. Furthermore, the gang that he said was going to persecute him, so this theory that he's an MS-13 and there's this rival gang, the 18th Street Gang, doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. So the entire concept is false. But again, when the media talks about the idea that there was a mistaken removal, it implies to, I think, a normal listener, the wrong person was sent somewhere. He's an illegal alien from El Salvador. Where was he sent? To El Salvador. Where does he belong? In El Salvador.
Right? It's different.
He belongs.
Sending someone home and sending them into a prison that they could remain in for
It is
life.
up to El Salvador how to handle the process for their own citizens. Again, what you seem to be asking us to do is to change the government and the laws of El Salvador. So if we deport somebody back to, for example, Syria, should we be closely involved on a day-to-day basis with the Syrian government, detailing that person's life and future? If we deport, say, 100,000 people back to Haiti, should we open a case file on each of those 100,000 people and ask every day, what's their housing situation? What's their healthcare situation? What might they need? What might they want? Once someone's out of our country, that becomes the problem of their host country, not our country. These people chose to invade us. So there's a lot of concern from the corporate media about the invaders, but they chose to invade us. it's our responsibility to return them back to where they came from or another country willing to take them.
Stephen,
You don't see the
Stephen,
Supreme Court.
is the president going to ask for him to be returned to the United States or not? Like, yes or no?
So first of all, it's not a question for me to answer, but I think that the assumption that underlies the question is what needs to be corrected, which is that there was no mistake that was made. He was sent. So what? Let me ask you. So what do you think would happen to him if he came back to this country? As your understanding of immigration laws, what do you think would happen?
But I'm just asking
No,
at
it's
this
important
point
to know.
about whether
You're
or
asking
not
you're asking a lot of questions.
The president,
You're asking.
plans
You
to
were
ask
all
El
asking a lot of
Salvador.
questions about this, and you all seem to care about it a lot. So let's see if any of you have researched anything about this issue at all. Can anyone here tell me what would happen to the illegal alien from El Salvador if he came back to the United States? Does anyone here know? Does anyone want to guess? Any of you?
He could be with his family.
Does any of you know the answer to the question? Legally, what would happen if he came back here? Does any of you know? Any of you?
Do you really believe the Supreme Court?
I'm talking
Do you
now.
really believe the
You
Supreme
need to
Court
stop.
doesn't
I'm talking now.
think he
Does
should be
any of you-
returned? Why was it unanimous?
You're done. Does any of you know the answer to the question? Does any of you? You've been talking about it for days.
All would deport him again, no?
He would be arrested.
Okay.
He'd be put in confinement. He would be deported the second time to El Salvador again because there's no withholding order for an alien who's a member of a foreign terrorist organization, number one. Number two is the gang that he's a member of doesn't exist in El Salvador anymore. So what you're asking for is to be deported twice. But additionally, if we chose to just pretend that the withholding order was real, he would be deported to a different country. So, for example, he could be deported to Egypt. So, I'm just trying to understand, is it your view, in other words, you have to find a country that will be willing to take a MS-13 member from El Salvador. So I'm trying to understand from you all is, so if he came back and under our laws, he was then deported to Egypt or to Somalia, would you then be saying, great, I'm so glad that you deported him to another country? Is that what you'd all be saying? Like, do you understand our immigration laws at all? But the premise of your question, the gentlemen,
Yes or no?
the return, guys, do you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order? Do you know the difference? Any of you, please. Do you?
Well, we're not in the government.
But you couldn't even spend 72 hours over the weekend learning the distinction, even though you've been writing and talking about it this whole time.
Stephen, we're not going anywhere. On the
Just
gold cards.
Just
on the
raise
gold
your
cards.
hand. Does any of you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order?
My question is, how do you know that he's a member of MS-13? The White House has repeatedly said according to intelligence.
According to,
But
no,
what
by the way,
evidence?
according to our government and his government. In other words, his
But
government has
why not
confirmed
make
based on
that
their own
information
intelligence
public? Why not make
that he's
that
a member of MS-13. First of all, do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
What's that?
Do you dispute that he's an illegal alien?
No.
Okay. And do you dispute that as an illegal alien, we have the right to deport him?
Going through the
And he
process.
went through the legal process. So I want to be very. What I'm getting from this conversation, which is educational for me, is that not one person in the media knows the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order. Is that a fair statement? You're learning about this all for the first time right now? I guess so. Okay. So
Can we ask
the deportation
about
order means the
other
judge
matters?
has said he must be deported from the country. He has no right to remain here any longer. He must be removed from the country. So his only options are to be deported to his home country or another country. That's it. There's no other option. He doesn't get to stay here. He doesn't get to live here. He has no future here. He has no right to be here. He's an illegal alien. So when you keep saying return, because you've been spun up by the open borders advocates, you all seem to be operating under the illusion that he would be able to come to the United States and just continue to live here illegally. That's not an option available to him. His only choices in life are to live in El Salvador or to live in another country. That's it. There's no other option, legally or otherwise, because he came to our country illegally. Do you understand that?
Stephen,
So
can I
you're-
ask, as a matter of policy, does the administration believe that immigration judges, because they're under DOJ, that their orders can be overruled by what the administration wants? Is that a general matter of policy?
Well, actually,
Administration?
so specifically, is the Attorney General has authority to overrule the immigration courts, and that's
yes.
actually by statute. Yes. Other questions?
Stephen, on the gold card, the President and Secretary Lutnick have suggested they're lining up applicants already. How many people do you expect to be tagged to this program when the President announces it this week, if he actually announces it this week?
I'll let Secretary Lutnick provide that update, but I appreciate
the
that.
White House administration is going to deport 1 million undocumented people?
Much more than that. much more.
Stephen, also of the 10 alleged gang members that Secretary Rubio said were sent
Yes.
to El Salvador over the weekend, what sort of due process did they get as mandated by the Supreme Court?
Well, you're talking about the alien enemies?
Yes, the alien.
So first of all, a number of those are MS-13. So again, those are just standard removals of El Salvadorians to El Salvador. And
What
without
evidence did you provide that they were MS-13?
Okay, so we seem to be confused about this. Illegal aliens from El Salvador, again, get deported to El Salvador. Do you all appreciate that like tens of thousands of El Salvadorians have been deported to El Salvador? You seem to be under the impression that El Salvadorians living in our country illegally just get to stay here. They don't. They get arrested and deported. Then the fact that they're MS-13 just puts an extra priority on our deporting them. But we would deport someone to El Salvador regardless of whether or not they were MS-13 if they were here illegally. That's just an extra, because of the priority on public safety threats, we're emphasizing the removals of gang members, in this case, foreign terrorist organization gang members. But as to your other question, they went through all of the due process, as you would call it, that is required by law. So what I find so mystifying is that I've been talking to you all for a very long time. I legitimately, going back years actually, in my entire professional life, I've never received this many questions from the media about an American who was raped or murdered by an illegal alien. Like, legitimately never. And all of you who are enjoying your lives and doing quite well, if you had children and you were living near any of these people, you would move away immediately. You would call the police immediately. You would call us and ask us to make you and your family safer immediately. And you thank your lucky stars every night that you have enough means and enough money not to live in communities where, say, illegal alien pedophiles offend and reoffend and keep reoffending and keep reoffending. There's an expression there, but for the grace of God, go I. The Biden administration apprehended 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela. They were trained to Aragua. A lot more than 2, but the story I'm telling is 2. And they decided they were entitled to an enormous amount of due process. And they didn't feel they had enough evidence to just deport them right away. So they put them on a monitoring system known as supervised release. You're familiar with this case. But a few weeks later, they kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Nungary, who was 12 years old at the time. I'm sure you've seen pictures of her. Just the most perfect girl you could possibly imagine. And her mother loved her very much. She was tied up, savagely beaten, stripped naked, tortured to death, murdered. Her body was dumped into a lake. So she didn't get any due process, but I'll tell you who did are the 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela who stole her forever. And there's stories like that all over the country. We just arrested a pedophile illegal alien who is being shielded by Sanctuary City, who's been charged in 20 sex crimes against children. None of you, any of you have had the chance to spend time with victims' families whose children have been raped or whose wives have been raped and murdered. But if that doesn't break your heart, nothing will. And I know that we have some people, like Taylor Lawrence, who fantasize about assassinations and things like that. But in a civilized society, the power of the state is used to keep innocent people alive and to keep innocent women and children from being hurt. This administration is never going to apologize for using the power of the state to keep men, women, and children from being savagely murdered and beaten. If we release known and suspected MS-13 and trained to Aragua, and then there's another Jocelyn Nungary, then whose responsibility is that going to be? Do you think that we're going to sit around wringing our hands, wondering if, maybe we should, release this person, give them a little bit of extra time, give them a little bit extra chance to plead their case, and then what? They kidnap somebody, they slit their throat, they shoot them in the head, and we say, well, at least the illegal alien got due process. They're here illegally. The only place that they deserve to go is to some country other than our country. And it's not a statistic. These are real lives. These are real families. There's whole neighborhoods in Los Angeles controlled by illegal alien Mexican street gangs. Entire neighborhoods where you have to live in fear because of individuals here illegally engaged in extortion and crime. Not to mention the fentanyl. You have cartels that have functional control over the entire northern territory in Mexico who are pumping fentanyl, lacing our drugs with this chemical. Children are ending up dead. They're going out to a weekend party. They think they're taking something safe and they get a heart attack and they die by the thousands. So we're not going to apologize for doing something about that. And I just wish we lived in a country where the media gave to 1/10 a damn as much about Americans who were murdered and brutalized and savagely killed, beaten to death, as they did about whether illegal aliens that we all agree are illegal aliens should get 1 million days in court and 1 million trials and 1 million this and 1 million that. There's 15 million illegal aliens that violently enter the country. If every one of them got the trial that you're asking for, it would take us centuries to remove them. Centuries. We'd be talking about this in 300-400 years. Their great-great-great-grandchildren would be the ones representing them in court. That's how long it would take. Illegal aliens who come to our country have to be removed, and they have to be removed quickly, and that is an essential component of having something that we like to call a country.
Stephen, on the
one
matter,
last question.
on the
Thank you.
matter of visa restrictions, the president on his first day. Sorry, the
Yeah, I'll do
president on his
brief
first
stuff,
the president on his first day in office signed an executive order calling on his administration, the Department of Homeland Security, State Department, DNI, to come up with a list of countries that did meet the United States' vetting standards and to potentially put full or partial visa restrictions on those countries. I just want to know what is the status of that report that was due to the administration last month? Do you have a list yet of countries?
So the State Department has done the work that you're describing. It's currently going through the standard review process. I don't have any update beyond that, but I mean you're correct in your statement that this was a product that was called for at the beginning of the administration and it's being worked on, and hope to have a further update for you soon. Last question.
If I may, President Trump continues to say that one of the best arguments for sending undocumented criminals to El Salvador is cost. When it comes to this White House considering sending U.S. citizens to El Salvador because of being criminals, is that the same argument, cost?
So the El Salvadorian deportation program is for illegal aliens, but I would also say that on the cost point, what we're referring to is the fact that long-term incarceration in the United States, probably costs like 100x what it costs to send somebody to El Salvador. So that's in other words, if an illegal alien commits a crime in this country and then has to go into our judicial and penal system, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm assuming it's probably like 100x cost. But I'll just close by saying the amount of lives that we've saved since we showed up by shutting down the border, since President Trump issued his executive orders and began deporting criminals, is already in the thousands. And by the way, we've been out looking for the 500,000 children that Biden trafficked into this country. The stories we've already uncovered of sex trafficking and labor trafficking and child abuse is beyond imagination. 500,000 minors were smuggled into this country under the last administration, and the administration not only didn't do anything to prevent it, in every way they funded it, subsidized it, facilitated it, supported it, contributed to it, that if any American citizen did these things, they'd be in jail for life. Thank you.
So that means that no U.S.